Good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 3 of the 5 a.m. challenge. Just by being here on a Friday morning, it says something about your seriousness and your commitment, but it also says something about your hunger to take your life to the next level, to experience something more. I want us to start off by just engaging really briefly. Can you name for me, go to the chat box, and do not refer to your notes, just see what you can remember from day 1. We spoke about 4 pillars. And these are the 4 pillars that get fractured by a dysfunctional relationship with variety. Where variety, in your desire to experience variety, you end up practicing escape. And you escape from your reality to everything else. You escape to yesterday, you escape to tomorrow. Yesterday in terms of regret and nostalgia, tomorrow in terms of daydreaming and fantasy. You escape to other people's reality by admiring what they have, or envying or competing. You escape to problems, you escape to emergencies, you escape everywhere except now. So let me see what we have. Gladys says ownership. Matthew says foundation. I see perspective, strategy, ownership, foundation. Florence gives us all the 4: strategy, perspective, foundation, and ownership. Thank you for those responses. I want us to cross to day 2. So day 1 is about how a dysfunctional relationship with variety creates escape, and escape fractures your perspective so that you lose your capacity to go deeper. It fractures your strategy such that the management of your resources and your focus is completely diluted and fractured. It fractures your foundation, so you lose your ability to build repeatedly, such that you do a lot of things but they don't compound, they don't grow. Why? You don't do anything repeatedly long enough. And finally, you fracture your ownership, such that you start to outsource the explanation of how your life works and why it works the way it does externally. That's what we call the puppet lifestyle, the puppet mindset, the puppet. In other words, you are not choosing to be, but you are living in such a way that everything else around you has strings on your life. That was day 1. Let's cross to day 2. We talked about 4 hungers. What are the 4 hungers that we talked about on day 2? What are the 4 hungers? Each of the hungers has deep aliveness. So this is the connection I want you to make this morning. Okay? Deep aliveness goes with perspective. In other words, when you have sufficiently strong perspective that you can stay with now, you no longer escape from now, you can be fully alive now. Deep aliveness operates in the moment. Perspective operates in the moment. When you are able to narrow down everything and go deeper in the moment, what is perspective? Your willingness to see what is here. The second one was strategy. Strategy is about what are these things you are committing so much energy to? In other words, what do these things mean to you? So deep meaning and strategy go together. If I see you living with no strategy, I know that you are not experiencing meaning day to day. In other words, you are living on the surface. Because if you started to extract meaning, you would automatically begin to adopt a strategy that narrows your focus and controls your resources, because what you are doing actually makes sense. Because we said meaning is knowing that what you are doing will live beyond the transaction. Foundation is about connection. Foundation is about connection. People say, oh, discover your purpose. So after you discover your purpose, then what? Because if you truly discover your purpose, it means for the rest of your life, you have one thing. And what does growth require? If I gave you a tree and I told you, I would like to come and see what this tree has become in the next 20 years, how many times are you going to move that tree around? How many times will you move the tree around? You will never move it around once you plant it. Once you plant it, foundation is about connection. In other words, in which area do you have sufficient stability to stay long enough to grow roots? Because without the roots, you will never grow a shoot. Without a shoot, you will never have fruit. And then finally, we spoke about ownership. Ownership is the pillar that goes with the hunger of fulfillment. When you do not own your experiences, when you don't own your experiences, they are fleeting, such that even if something beautiful happens in your life, you are inclined to reach. You never spend enough time to experience what you've received. I used this yesterday. You never experience enough time here. So you don't even get to own your experience. Facebook owns your experience more than you do. Your albums, the videos that were taken during your wedding or your graduation, they own the experience more than you do. It's like it's more real in the pictures than it is in your heart, because it happened in a moment and it was gone, and that is it. That is the connection between ownership, so that you own the experience of the joy that comes to your life, but you also own the experience of the difficulty and frustration and pain without escaping. Because if you cannot own the experience of the struggle becomes wasted on you. There have been too many problems in your life that are wasted. The reason is because you scratch the surface, and then you walk away. The problem does not teach you problem-solving skills. It does not teach you patience. It does not teach you creativity. The problem comes as a foreign gift, and then it fleets away. In medicine, when we treat infections, how we decide how much antibiotic we will give you is an expression we have in medicine called "don't tickle the bacteria, kill the bacteria." In other words, I will not give the bacteria enough antibiotic to tickle it. I give it enough bacteria and enough antibiotic to kill the bacteria. Some of your greatest joys and some of your greatest problems, this is what creates for you what we call range, so that you truly develop the capacity to experience the highest joy, but you also develop the capacity to endure more pain than most people do. Because when you do, if you can handle both intense joy and very discomforting pain without losing perspective, you become unstoppable. You begin to trust yourself. You begin to be willing to take risks because you know you can handle whatever comes. And that is what creates a full life, from the pain all the way to the joy. Those of you who are in my circle, you would probably see me share a couple of things about my personal life publicly for a long while, and I'm doing this intentionally. I don't need anybody to like it. I don't need anybody to applaud me. I'm doing this because there are boys I grew up with in the village, or who are growing in the village where I grew up. I want to show them something else. When I look back at my life, there are moments of joy that melt my heart. But then I realize that the balance I treasure in my life is because of these immense moments of joy, but they are also balanced by immense moments of pain. So that sometimes, even when I go to speak to audiences, I would find myself sharing elements from my story, but I'm sharing them with a level of depth I haven't consciously thought about. And that's because there were times when I did not submit myself to the pain, but I was stretched by the pain, which leaves me regretting the moments when I had other opportunities where difficult things happened and I remained in complaining mode and I did not reach in there and find the gems. Because if pain is coming for 3 months, it's coming for 3 months. You can complain about the pain for 3 months, or you can harvest the treasure in the pain for 3 months. You get to choose. In 2026, the difficulties that are going to come your way will come your way. You can spend 4 months complaining about the difficulties, or you can spend those 4 months remaining in perspective. Remember, perspective and deep aliveness, they go hand in hand. Such that perspective is the ability to see what is here now. And aliveness is that capacity to experience yourself fully in your body and fully in your life. And once you have these two together, you begin you automatically gain a range where most things that would otherwise fluster you no longer fluster you. So now I want us to add a really crucial element. This is the crux of everything that we've done. Please go to the chat box and type the words old instructions. You could say old instructions or old software. I would like to see a couple. I want to see some engagement. Go to the chat box and type old instructions or old software. Or you can make them old instructions and old software. I see old instructions, old software. Let me see. Try and engage. Engage in this. Thank you for those responses. Yesterday, we started the session by saying that your brain is not wired to make you happy. It's wired to make you survive, and we defined survival as meeting your needs. Now, here is the crux of the matter, and this is something that you have to really, truly receive. The brain is a predicting machine. It runs only as good as the instructions it has. If the brain has clear instructions, it makes the right predictions. When the brain has unclear instructions, it runs by default. When you buy a new laptop, if you don't add software that gives your laptop clear instructions, the laptop runs with defaults, whatever it came with. But if the instructions are clear, the laptop follows it. Now, the problem is that most people are running instructions they never chose. Most people are operating with software they never installed themselves. We are living late into adulthood with instructions we inherited, instructions that we absorbed, instructions that are dysfunctional, but they are disguised as wisdom. And I would like us to look at the 7 old instructions, 7 old pieces of software. And when I outline this, some of them are going to sting. I'm sorry in advance. Some of them are going to sting. I will present them as phrases, and they are phrases you've heard, phrases you've said, maybe this week, but the phrases are not the real instructions. The real instructions are unspoken. The real instructions live beneath the words. They sound like wisdom. They feel like protection, but they are running your brain, giving your brain old instructions. Here is the first one. That's just how I am. That's just how I am. That's the phrase. What is the instruction under that's just how I am? The instruction to the brain is change is not safe. Change is not safe. If I change, I might fail or be exposed or be laughed at or be left behind. That's the first one. The second one. The second old instruction, I have no choice. You have never said these words, it's just your neighbor. I have no choice. What's the hidden instruction to your brain? Responsibility is dangerous. Because if I have a choice, then where I am, what my life looks like, is my fault. And so we instruct the brain to regard the situation we are in as fixed. We accept it at face value. The next piece of instruction, the next piece of old instructions. I'll be happy when, I will start when, I will try if. And sometimes this is not spoken, but it is the mindset. Every single time you've procrastinated, you are saying, I will be ready when, I will attempt if. What is the hidden instruction? I don't deserve that experience right now, or I don't qualify to experience that right now. The brain is like, oh, we don't qualify, we don't deserve, we are not ready. It affects it. It implements it. Such that no matter how many times you shout like, this is my year, this is my year. Yes, this is your year to procrastinate again. Congratulations. Because the old instruction is running. The old software is in place. Here is one of the most dangerous ones. The next piece of old instruction. It says, I don't want to get my hopes up. I don't want to get my hopes up. That's what we say, but what is the hidden instruction underneath? You are telling your brain, hope is dangerous. Hope is dangerous. And then after a while, you no longer feel things that you should be hopeful about because the brain is running old instruction. The brain knows if I hope and lose, the fall might break me. The fall might injure me. The fall will be painful. The next piece of instruction, the next piece of old instruction, this is probably the single most limiting one. This is the single most limiting one because it arises when we confuse our core with our personality, and personality grows out of upbringing, environment, exposure. And this is the piece of instruction, the old piece of instruction. It says, I am just not that kind of person. I am just not the kind of person who likes to speak in public. I'm not the kind of person who likes sales. I'm not the kind of person who takes risks. I have to prepare. I have to do my research. I'm not the kind of person who lets go of grudges easily. It's not my choice. I'm not that kind of person. Because what is the instruction underneath? The instruction that you are giving your brain when you say, I'm not that kind of person, you are telling the brain, expansion is not available to me. Change is not within my possibilities. And the brain concludes, that is the instruction. If we try and fail, we will confirm that we were never enough. We will confirm that that is not for us. So the brain is like, deactivate, deactivate, deactivate. So what happens? 2026 is my year. 2026 is my year. My brain is like, 2026 is our year to run the old software one more year. And another 12 months, the code is still running. The final piece of software, I have two more actually. The final piece of software, final piece of old instruction. It is what it is. It sounds like, it's very elevated. Ladies and gentlemen, it is what it is. Sometimes we say it differently. It's how are things going? Business is business. Yeah. How is work? Work is work. What the hidden instruction is, the words are, it is what it is. The hidden instruction is what you're telling your brain. My efforts don't matter. My efforts will not change this. My efforts will just scratch the surface. Nothing will change. And then the brain concludes, he says, she says, our efforts don't matter. If I try and nothing changes, I will have wasted all our time. So what does it do? Close the door, close the door, close the door, close the door. It is what it is. Say those words to yourself. I hope you're alone. Even if you're with someone else, look at them in the eyes and say, it is what it is. Usually we say it and it feels like it is what it is. Finally, this is what I call false gratitude. False gratitude. At least I tried. At least I came. At least I thought about it. At least I set the goals. At least I considered. This is false gratitude. In fact, it is weaponization of gratitude as an explanation as to why you shouldn't go further. Because if you employed perspective, you will not say, at least I. You will say, I showed up, but I planned wrong and I arrived late. Or I came and presented, but I did not prepare for these additional questions. Or I came and gave it my best, but I did not come with an open mind knowing that they may buy or may not buy. Such that perspective allows you to see what is in its comprehensiveness, rather than narrowing down and telling your brain wanting more is not safe. Those are 7 pieces of old software. I don't want you to report about yourself. How many? I want you to guess, and whatever number you put here, we will not attribute it to you. We'll just know it's for your neighbor. How many of this out of the 7 do you think one of your neighbors whom you're just speaking for a friend, how many of those do you think one of your friends probably has? Not you. Probably has. I want you to, if you want, you can give a range, but just go ahead. There's no one. Humphrey, you can't say a range of 1 to 7. So that's oh my God. You just want to kill me this morning. Okay. All right, this is the point at which I was going to give permission to anyone that is innocent of any of this. We wanted to just say thank you for being with us. You are released. If you're innocent of all of them, you are released, and we wish you an amazing 2026. The rest of us will continue, because now we have 2 parts that I will go through really quickly that are going to be so important. We have the 4 fractures. I need you to try later on, make sure you connect this. You have the 4 fractures. Each of the fractures relates to one of the hungers. And now I'm going to give you 4 questions. Each of the questions relates to one of the hungers. I'm going to give you 4 questions. The first question, can I see by show of thumbs up? You don't need to go to the chat box. Thumbs up if you are ready for the 4 questions. Fantastic. The first question is, where are you? Perspective is about being able to be here and see what is here. Deep aliveness is being able to be here and experience, right? Where are you? This question hit me hard around July of 2025. One of my colleagues called me and they're like, hey, Job, where are you? Apparently they had a meeting and I said like, hey, I'm home. And we spoke and we finished. But after we hung up, then I asked myself the question, Job, where are you? And this was the answer. Physically, I am at home. Intellectually, I am already in 2026. That was July 2025. Emotionally, I'm still in 2024. It was a Tuesday. Spiritually, I was already in charge on the weekend, Sunday at 9 a.m. Recreationally, I was already on vacation in December. Financially, I was grappling with a big decision I was about to make that was coming up in 3 months. In other words, I was everywhere except here. I was everywhere except now. Here's my question. Where are you? Where are you? We are hungry for aliveness. The question is, how do we lose aliveness? We lose aliveness. This is so important. We lose aliveness through fragmentation. Fragmentation. Emotionally, you are in 2016 and 2022 and 2023. Intellectually, you are in 2014 and 2007. Fragmentation. Deep aliveness together with perspective is the ability to pull all those ingredients into now, into here. So where are you? The second question. The second question is, who are you with? Who are you with? And this is not about your contacts, your followers, your friends, I am asking about one word, witnesses. Witnesses. Who witnesses your life? That's a question that can be framed as, who receives your whole self? Who receives your strengths and your weaknesses? Who loves you enough to call out your nonsense and congratulate your success? Because we lose deep connection and we fracture our strategy because we are running all over the place. Our attention is all over the place. Our focus is all over the place. There is a depth of grounding connection that will transform your life completely. And every single time I have ever had the opportunity to give someone just that chance to be witnessed, it's the kind of opening that can happen in your life you have no idea. Many people know about you, but how many actually know you? Because sometimes we think, oh, family will do it. Family will do it if you are on the same wavelength. Sometimes success or failure creates a chasm, or goals create a chasm. Whoever the witness will be, if it's a member of a family or whoever that is going to be, creating that level of gelling. This is what's supposed to happen in religious circles. in church or in mosque, or this is where we're supposed to have witnessing circles, a witnessing circle that accepts me exactly as I am, accepts you exactly as you are. How do we lose connection? We lose connection. It's also through fragmentation, but it's a different kind of fragmentation. We lose connection when we show fragments to many. We show fragments to many people instead of wholeness to a few. Such that my entire life there are fragments of me known all over the place, but there is hardly anyone who actually really, that is the, if you have someone like that in your life, this is the year that like really anchoring down like roots is going to be the cure-all. Question number 3. Question number 3. Why does this matter to you? Why does this goal matter to you? Why does this relationship matter to you? Why does this focus matter to you? I don't know what your this is this year. If that this is not important enough and narrow and focused enough, you are not going to get deep meaning. If you don't have deep meaning, you have no foundation. A fractured foundation just assures that you will never be able to achieve deep meaning. And achieving deep meaning is about being able to answer this question. It's not about why it mattered when you started, but why does it matter today? Because that's the question that gives you the power to overcome any difficulty you come across. Can you stop whatever you are doing and you immediately have the answer? Whether you are in the middle of succeeding or you're in the middle of failing, meaning is about carrying the weight and resolving to respect the decision we shared yesterday. I am willing to stay when the going gets difficult, when the going gets tough. Why does this matter to you today? Usually we know why we want to start something at the beginning. But deep meaning is about being able to answer that question in this moment. In this moment on an ongoing basis. I work full-time as a cardiologist, but I am here almost every single day. Why? Because the answer to that question is so clear. The answer to that question is so clear. I have not yet had big audiences anywhere, but my life is filled with story after story after story of people whose lives changed, whose kids' life changed, whose work in the office changed just because I showed up. And there's nothing you'll ever be able to pay me for that value. There's no amount of money that will be able to do that. Please remember this when it comes to the question of why this matters. Remember this: time determines the event. Time determines the event. Meaning determines the experience. Time determines the event. Meaning determines the experience. Why does this matter to you today, not yesterday? Not why will it matter for 5 years? Final question, question number 4. Question number 4, what have you received? What have you received? What have you received today? What have you received this week? What have you received this year so far? Received, not achieved, not acquired, not bought, not been given. What have you received? In other words, what is it that is in your life that you have allowed to land deeply? You know, sometimes people are called degree holders, right? It's like you get the degree and then you you hold it, right? Degree holders, right? I want to become a blessing receiver, whatever. If it's a degree, to actually receive it to the point where the paper is useless. To receive, this is about, we spoke about fulfillment yesterday, and this is what it comes to: ownership and fulfillment, where that emotional experience is complete. The celebration that goes beyond just, there is the celebration that is adrenaline, or no, there is the celebration that makes that experience yours. Ownership that is so unshakable, so that I stop comparing my success, my achievements, my progress to yours, because mine may not be as big as yours, but I own it fully. And sometimes when you have something, even if it's small, if you own it fully, sometimes you actually have more. And this is why I love the phrase that count your blessings. Count your blessings and make them count. And how do you make them count? By making it experiential. Because when we don't do, this is how we lose fulfillment. There you have them, the 5 questions, which are supposed to be the completion of the fractures, the hungers, and the questions are the keys that ties everything together, so that the keys can help us begin to unlock and uninstall those 7 instructions, whichever instructions of those instructions are active in your life. I will upload the 2 remaining sessions, yesterday's and today, and I would like you to watch all 3 of them again. I watched day 1 today and found myself writing notes, not because of what I said there, but because of what else is stirring while I sit there and listen when I had downtime at work. Here's my promise to you. If you became part of the daily reset, which is essentially a long-running 5 a.m. challenge, if we did this with you at least 3 times a week for 6 months, by the end of the year, you will look back and you wouldn't recognize yourself, because you will be exposing your mind to the kind of instructions that go deeper than just intellectual knowledge. Because I'm not here to entertain you. If I was going to try to be entertaining, probably I would be in a different career. I am here because I know that there are 2 hearts. There is the physical one that we can see, but then there is the truly more powerful heart. That is the heart that is not touched by failure or success or regret or pain or joy. That heart that exists in its originality. And the more layers we can peel, the more of that heart we can begin to experience and live with every day. So I will share the link to the WhatsApp groups where you are. And this is the first time I am making the daily reset formal. It's going to be a very tight community. You will apply, and I don't know how many people I will admit into the daily reset. It is a paid program for you to make a commitment to it. It's only 3,000 Kenyan shillings every month. That is less than a milkshake a day. It's way, way less. But trust me, if you take a chance on yourself and join a community that will witness you and open in your life portals you never thought were actually present. And this is my assurance to you: if you stay on the daily reset for 6 months, you will make more progress than any degree that you could ever earn anywhere. And I say that because I know. I made a decision in 2015 and said I will commit 10 years for a specific vision. And that vision, it got to a point when it was inevitable. I knew that this vision is inevitable. It's just a matter of time. And last year in July, I made another commitment for the next 10 years for a different, way more challenging, but truly meaningful vision. And this work is part of that vision. And it will be my pleasure for as many of you as are willing to make 2026 the year you remember what matters and experience what you've never experienced in terms of going to the next level, that this year truly turns things around. This year, even if you don't do anything, you reduce the volume of those external voices, those voices from the past, those critical voices, and begin to hear the signal that is in your life that is now, so that your deep aliveness begins to happen now. Deep meaning becomes a daily experience. Deep connection helps you unblock some of the portals that have been hiding your best ideas, your best strengths, your best attributes. And then, of course, deep fulfillment. Get to the experience where you begin to receive what's already in your life, because if you receive it, it will germinate. And you have no idea what may germinate out of your life, because you have so many seeds in your life. You've never received them into the soil of your being so that they can germinate. And every single day, I feel like something new is germinating. I am so thrilled. And those of you who have been with me, you know that sometimes if we were face to face, I would get to a moment when I just laugh, because I'm just grateful, because the journey is just so beautiful. You just have to commit to the journey and get the fruits from the journey. So watch out for the link. If this is not for you, that's okay. But if you know that it's time for you to go to the next level, welcome to the Daily Reset. Congratulations on completing the 5 a.m. challenge. 3 days of dealing with the fractures, the hangers, and those were 2 heavy days. And hopefully today, with the 7 instructions and the 4 questions, you have a key. There is one more ingredient, which is called the 4 decisions. The 4 decisions, I will tell you which day. I will cover that next week, because the 4 decisions is what will wrap everything together. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I will now hand over to Gladys Nyambura.
Wow, wow. Thank you, Doc. Let's appreciate Daktari. Robert, good morning. Karibu this session. How are you feeling? Robert, we love